Okay, for assignment 9, we're going to make a cool app that I call FirebaseChat. I started a new project, and as you can see up here in the top left corner, it's called FirebaseChat. What it's going to do is use the experimental Firebase component, which you can find down here in the experimental tour, and we're going to drag that over, and it's going to give us a database. And it's going to be a super easy database with a tag value pair, kind of like you'd use for TinyWebDB or TinyDB. But the cool thing is it's got a special event. If you go over and you look at the Firebase component, which is the only one we have in here right now, and you look for the data changed. Every time the data changes, this event is going to fire. And if we all store data in the same place, then every single app that uses this particular database will get events that are called data change. And then you can update your chat window with the data that's come in. And that's kind of cool. But we don't want all the data. We only want data that's associated with a particular tag. And in order to do that, let's just make a variable right now that we're going to call secret tag or secret key. And let's just make something up because this is what we are going to use that nobody else is going to think of. And I'm going to just bang away on the keyboard a little bit here. Okay. That's our secret key. And what we want to do is whenever data comes in with this secret key, we want to grab it. So let's just say if, and we'll compare texts. So we'll go back over here, and we'll say if the tag on the data changed event is equal to our secret key, then we're going to do something with it, okay? So we'll use that in a minute. Let's make the user interface first, because what we want to do is, since we're going to have a bunch of people using our chat program, we want to know who's using it, right? So we need to have them get a user interface field that allows them to put in a username. And in fact, I didn't want to bother making it difficult for them, so I'm just going to put a text box up here, and let's make it fill the whole screen. And let's give it a hint. Pick a username. Okay, so now we've got that. We want to have the chat window, the history right here. And then at the bottom, we want to have a text box and a send button. And also, as the chat gets longer, we want this to scroll. So we got to select the whole screen and then just say scrollable. Good. Let's put our label in here, and we'll call this the chat history. So let's rename it right now so I don't forget. Okay, and let's make it as wide as the screen. And before I make it fill the parent, I want to do one other thing. I want to put in a horizontal layout, an arrangement here. And I want this to fill the screen. Just as wide, good. And I also want to put a text box, which is chat message. Let's rename it. You may want to put a send button next to it. Let's just call this send. And let's change the text to send. Make it bold so you can see it. And finally, let's take the chat message text box and, well, I guess we can make it multi-line, but really what I'm thinking is let's make it as fill the parent so it pushes the button over. Now everything looks good except this is kind of small, so let's take our chat history label and have the height fill the parent. And that should push everything to the bottom. Okay. I think it's working. Chat, fill, automatic. Let's change it to, oh, fill parent. Okay. And and for whatever reason it does not look like it is wanting to fill the parent. Is that because the screen is scrollable? Let's see. I think it is. There you go. Now it fills the parent, but we still want the thing to be scrollable, so there you go. That's how our app is going to look as far as user interface goes, and we want to make sure that we get rid of this text. That's not going to be too helpful. Okay, UI is done, so now we go over and we look at our blocks. And really, all we have to handle is the initialize event to put a username in here for somebody, and the send button. So looking at the blocks, if we go into screen 1 initialize, you'll see that the screen 1 initialize event, there you go. We want to set the text box, this is our username. Let's set the text to a random integer between 1 and some large number. Okay, because I don't really care what it is, I just want it to be probably, through the people using our app. Okay, so now we got that. And if we say do it, and then we look at the app, it will say that we've got a number up here. That's great. Now we just want to have this. We have to put some text in there. So our send button is right here, and we want the click event on that. And what we want to do is a couple of things. First, we want to only do it if there is a value in there. So let's just say first, if the text is not empty, and say it's not empty, so we need a logic component. Yep. Okay. If not empty, the chat message text. Let's go in here and get the text. Then we want to do something. We want to store the value using Firebase. And the way we do that is go into Firebase and say store value. Then we want to close the keyboard. Actually, we want to set the text to the chat message box to nothing first. And then close the keyboard. Not that that really matters. We just have to be sure that we save it before we clear it. Hide keyboard. Okay. So now we want to use our secret key because we're going to store it to that value. And the value we're going to store is the chat message text. Let's copy this. We're going to do that. Now if we do this, it'll work as it is. It's going to store this value and it'll come back. Oh, we got to set this to nothing. Well, see, this is telling me we got an error. So we'll go here and let's grab one of these. Okay, so now our user interface will work. Our app should work as is. So let's take a peek at it. If we go and put something in here, just say A, say send, say B, say send. We're storing stuff. It's cleaning it out, it's doing what we want. Now we got to see what happens when it comes back because the data changed event is not actually handling anything. So let's go and do something. We'll put the value in the chat history label. Let's go and say chat history label text is going to equal the chat history label text plus something else. Let's put this over here for a second. We'll need a join. Okay, we'll put this at the top. And then let's put a new line. And the line looks like this. And then finally, let's put in the value. So back to our app, we go here. Now when I go and add something, we go and say A, send, data changes, B, send, data changes, C, this is great, but it doesn't tell me who's storing this data, right? It's not saying who's writing this chat. That would be very confusing. So what do you say we do a couple of things? First, let's change this hint, because that's going to be difficult. Go in here, and we'll just say on the chat message text box, let's change the hint, say we've got that. So now it's going to say write something. And then when we store it, let's store the username plus this information when we store this. So let's get another join. Value to store. And then let's say the username text box text. And actually, let's have one more in here because I need to have that. Okay. And in between, we put in another new line. Okay, this way, new line, space wrote, and new line. Okay, here we go. We've made some changes to our app, so if we write D now, and then E, and then F, if we change this username, make a G, send that. If we change it back, all this looks good, except I think it would be better if at the end of our get data, we should add just a little bit more. What do you say we add another line and some dashes, just to make it clear about who's writing what. So new line, bunch of dashes. Go back to our app. Q, W, R. Okay, that looks much better. That's how the Firebase Chat app works. If you have other phones that are hooked in, they will all work the same chat message, and we'll be able to communicate with one another. And when you do this assignment, if you go and make sure that you put everything together with the same key, then we'll be able to play because we'll be able to see the same one. In fact, when I post this on Canvas, I'll give you a specific key that we can put in there so we all know exactly which one to use. All right, everybody, good work.